So hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wish Alliance's Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, founder of Wish Alliance, and tonight we have a wonderful speaker, Miss Gita Rose, that I'm going to introduce in just a moment. But, this year we're going to be bringing a lot of speakers to help lighten the heart, to open the mind, to really expand our consciousness. And I couldn't think of a better speaker to kick this year off than Gita. Gita has been a creative intuitive all of her life. The first half of her life, she was a performer in musical theater. She graduated from the American Musical Dramatic Academy in New York City. Then the curtain rose and the veils began to part, introducing her to new ways of being a channel and telling stories. Gita is able to offer intuitive reading to help others activate their own innate abilities. She is also a vocal channel, and Gita facilitates Bella, an extraterrestrial human hybrid. Bella and Gita are able to offer a wide variety of perspectives and tools to help people connect to more of their inner contact, remembering together everything we forgot that we knew. Gita is also a registered Yoga Alliance 200-hour teacher. She's able to combine yoga and meditation concepts during her sessions. And I had the privilege of being on one of Alan's programs, and Gita was there, and I heard her speak, and it's like, oh my gosh, I gotta get her here so you guys could hear her. So Gita, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, and I am so grateful for your being here tonight. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And hello, everyone. As Sheila said, I originally started my journeying in musical theater, and I come from a artistic background. And that is the topic of tonight's discussion, is allowing our artistry, and diving into exactly what art can mean for us, especially as we are expanding our consciousness, and how utilizing art or being ourselves in any artistic capacity actually allows us to access different channeling states where we are able to connect to more of our cosmic selves. We are able to bring in more of our divinity, of eventually, if it's relevant, specific encounters and beings. So for me, coming from a musical theater background, that was my main focus. The idea of extraterrestrials was certainly nothing that was on my bandwidth or in my awareness. It wasn't anything that I directly sought out. It really came to me. And at first, it was something that I didn't really have an understanding of at all. The energy shared, it was extraterrestrial in nature. I had a friend of mine to validate a little bit because she was aware of vocal channeling. And really all that vocal channeling is we reach a certain vibratory state. We align with something else, whether it's our higher self, something that's a collective consciousness, something that is beaming out a like enough vibration. We are able to make a match for it. And then what then gets created is essentially a third entity. It is the blending of both consciousnesses. So it's not really possession or anything like that. I'm sure you guys are aware that those terms are kind of outdated modules, that really anytime we're being ourself to our fullest capacity, we're channeling. And that is really the foundation of what can then create many different specific types of agreements. So going into the experience, it happened spontaneously. One evening, a friend of mine was there to hold space for it. The energy said it's extraterrestrial in nature, but it didn't give me much more to go on than that. And for quite a few years, when I was practicing the vocal channeling state, or then my consciousness began to open up to having a lot more encounters and meditations and the dreams, sometimes things that were very kind of quasi-physical. And I very quickly observed within myself that my mind, the part of me that was waking up to this whole experience, was looking for something to understand, to grasp, to give a label to where this energy was coming from. Sometimes it felt very earthbound, it felt angelic, or it felt very extraterrestrial. And I learned in the very early stages of this, kind of relying on my theatrical background, that it's not about the details, it's about what we do with the energy. It's about how we utilize the energy, we take action, we play, we allow ourselves to be the malleable essence that we are, that then aligns with us, that then aligns us with the specific details when it's ready. So I'll give you a little bit of background just because a lot of times people are curious. So I'll do my best to be brief with it. But Bella, as she calls herself, represents herself as a human hybrid who is an extraterrestrial that is a result of what we would understand to be the gray human hybrid program. She feels herself as our descendants. She has her own mothership craft aboard Haleakala above Maui. She has many of what they refer to as the hybrid children on her ship. She very much enjoys theatricality in her own way and dressing up, and has a lot of artifacts and teaches the kids about what it would be like to eventually interact with human society. So at this point, 10 years later, I have a very fleshed out character of who she is. And what they always go back to is it's not about the details. It's not about the details. There's a lot of complexity within the story. There's a lot of things that our human mind likes to kind of get hung up on. We're all very curious, right, about our galactic histories. And it only makes sense that as we are expanding our ability to be in contact with the unknown, we want to define it, we want to know it. But they always go back to the best of your ability, utilize the allegory, utilize the symbolism and the inspiration of the emotion that then we can utilize to take the next action, and the next action, by following the formula, being the best versions of ourselves, we then literally raise our vibration to align with different frequencies that are being sent out to tune our tuning forks to get the next layer of information if it's relevant. So for me in particular, allowing myself to be an artist really helped find my way through all of this very specific information, or a type of collective cosmology, or a type of a monomyth in a way. Being able to just receive the information and do stuff with it is what allowed me to have the clarity I feel I have now. So what is art, right? What is art in general? What is that defined as? It's something that we don't really have a clear definition of. It's something that philosophers and artists themselves have talked and debated about and pontificated about for probably thousands of years. And we are expanding our definitions of everything right now. As our consciousness is expanding, we're expanding our definitions and absolutely what we call art. And I think it's really beautiful and something that we can really take advantage of in a way that already there is a malleability, a obscure nature to how our consensus already defines art. There's a collective energy, a collective agreed upon sensation that we can really feel into, that allows us to relax into the looseness. It's a paradox in a way. So even in this moment, I just invite you guys to feel that, how there's so many different ways to define what art is. There's so many different ways to define artistry, and how that's something that we've already distilled down from divinity in our collective definitions. And there's a support within that that allows us to continue to breathe into our expansion. I also really enjoy finding the etymology, the spelling of words. So art, A-R-T, is an old French word that means the skill or a result of a learning of practice. It's also connected to a Sanskrit word that I don't know how to pronounce, so I will just spell it. It's R-T-I-H, Ritte, I believe, which means manner or mode. The way one goes about doing something is art in a Sanskrit term. Or it's also derived from the suffix ar, which means to fit together. And the German word for art is Kunst, which is the root of kennen, to know. We also see that in a lot of other Anglo-Germanic languages. When you ken something, you know it. And again, that's the German translation of art, is the knowing, to know. And so again, already within the definitions of different cultures, different collective, different understandings, we have then a navigation tool of how we can feel into what our artistry might be, or different definitions that really make our hearts sing. And again, there's a relaxation that we can go into in terms of that structure of play, essentially. And also there's many different artists and philosophers that talk about the idea of art being an imitation of nature. One of the words that the hybrids really like to use is the word simulacrum. It's a really good vocabulary word, which means an image or a representation of someone or something. And it's usually ascribed to some type of artistic rendering of something divine or even ineffable, unknowable, untouchable, ununderstandable. I believe as humans, we are actually innately a simulacrum. We are a specific rendering and form, blends of divine and our connection to the ineffable in physicality. By definition, one way of looking at it, we are a work of art just by being ourselves. We're an extension and an imitation in a way of nature. As nature itself, our nature is that of an artist, something that is in the practice, in the process of becoming and knowing itself, mastering the skill of our own particular way of being our simulacrum. So anytime as well we are in the pursuit of knowing our integrative selves, we are actually then becoming more of ourselves and allowing more of our artistry. And especially for those of us that are really avidly seeking that and having that intention behind it, it becomes a full way of being. We often refer to it as meditation and movement, but I really feel as well it's also art in action. It's action as a type of artistry. And it really doesn't matter what it is we are doing. Anytime we are in the play, in the creativity of the gift of ourselves to ourselves, that type of focus or that intention becomes the art itself. It doesn't matter what we're doing, rather, but how we are doing it. And because we are being our nature, we are being the art itself. Anything that we do can then be art. So one of my favorite acting teachers when I was studying at the American Musical and Dramatic Academy asked us one day, "What is acting?" And he went around and asked all of us, and we were all like giving our best definition of our very lofty and intelligent translation of what acting is. And some of them were quite good, and some of them were very overly complex. And then Ray said to us in such this simple way, Ray Verda said, "Acting is honest response in imaginary circumstances." And this was before any of the spiritual quest and understanding came to me, and it hit something in me. There was a truth to that statement where it was not only what acting is, but even in that moment when I was 19 years old in that room in New York City, I knew it was an example of what humanity is doing, is honest response in what we could define as imaginary circumstances, meaning the dream or the simulation or whatever this experience is that we're creating. It technically is a type of imaginary experience that we are absolutely doing our best to have an authentic, honest response to. And we are expanding our consciousness. Those that are here are absolutely consciously doing that. I really feel that regardless of how things look, every one of our race is also following suit in terms of expanding their consciousness. They just might not be consciously aware of the transformation that is happening, but more and more it's becoming very prevalent for all of us. And with that, also our ability to perceive different frequencies and energies. And as I shared before, when I first opened up to some of these ideas, I could feel within me that I was fixated on defining what it was, who they were, where's it coming from, what box can I put this in, how can I understand this? And as humans, we are on the verge, especially those of us that are consciously exploring, we really are on the verge of full recognition and contact with what is the rendering of the unknown. We are in actuality meeting and exploring the unboxable. It's profound. And it took me a lot of time, honestly, to recognize what I was doing and to be able to receive the ideas being offered in an emotional capacity. And for me, it translates as the story first, and then the sensation, and then the seeding of how to be able to utilize this, to again, not get lost in the details, but utilize the energy of the story to do the next thing that inspires me. And I'm very aware that for me, I'm more naturally geared to perhaps being able to do this because I already very easily consider myself an artist in the more classical sense. And it's always been how I process complex ideas and relationships through writing, through poetry, through photography or dance. It's always how I've gotten anywhere near understanding the unboxable, comprehending what can't actually be understood. And in my personal perspective, there's always more to know. We are knowing the unknown, and then there's always an aspect of the unknown. It will never be fully known. And that's what we do with the unknown as humans, is we make stuff with it. And it's a character trait that we have. It's a form of protection, we might say, when we are met with something so ineffable, so undescribable, so divine, so miraculous that we want to understand it so we feel comfortable. And I've seen this happen a lot in different spiritual, metaphysical communities, and it makes sense. Again, we are in many different ways and on the leading crest of the wave of expansion and understanding and exploration of the unknown. We are in the process of meeting what we have taught, what we have been taught was impossible. We are remembering it all really is an imaginary experience, and we are in the practice of being able to respond as our truly natural selves. So I feel a lot of us will often rush past that initial shock, we might say, of awakening, that it's all real. Like, what? Everything that we were taught is not actually what was real in many different ways, or at least just the pardon me, the simplistic understanding that there's more. What? Aliens are real? Walk-ins and starseeds and hybrids, oh my, like, whoa. And I really do feel it's, again, a protective mechanism to attempt to classify it. And yes, we need certain levels of classification. It's fun, and we need it to be able to tell the story. But again, I feel like what we're doing, again, because it makes sense, we're protecting ourselves from sensations that are unknown to us, very big, very integrative, very high vibrational emotions that our society hasn't been trained for the most part how to wield, to be the force that we are. So it makes sense that we operate in this way, and in a way kind of rush by the sensations that are being offered to us, again, by this kind of initial shock of awakening. And the sensation of that initial emotion is the point. Again, that's the translation itself. When source or these different beings or our higher self are sending us information, they're not sending words, they're not sending details or specificity, they're really not even sending images. They're sending a vibration that our brain translates, and then we come up with these specific details or the story or specific images. But what is being sent initially is just that energy in motion. And so we can utilize that sensation as the mechanism to tap into our true selves and to be able to build a muscle in a new, creative, receptive way to remind ourselves that it's not, the question is, what is this? Or is this true? Or where's this coming from? Is this real? The question is, first off, how can I allow myself to know that I'm big enough to feel this? And then, how do I use it? How do I make something with it? And there's no how, or there's no should in terms of how should I make this. Any way that feels appropriate or exciting to us in an integrative way is the individual way. And again, it's all a continuous loop and kind of feedback. The more that we allow ourselves to feel these initial emotional responses and be in that receptivity and bring our true response to the art that is our life, we are then expanding our vibration and literally creating art because we're cooking a meal with a type of presence, or we are taking a walk with a new type of reverence that then we are allowing our artistry to shine through us to continue to raise our vibration. Anything, I have to stress that, because it's anything that we do can really be artistic expression, because again, it's just what we are. But I do also encourage people to play with whatever forms of traditional art you might feel drawn to, whether it's dancing or drawing or painting or just making noise or carving wood, or maybe it's a type of creation of science. There's all sorts of different kind of blends, again, feeling into that original definition of art, that it's so loose, but allow ourselves to play with specific things. And again, we can enter into these different channeling states that allow ourselves to continue to expand our vibration so that when it's relevant, you get the clarity of where it's coming from or how to define it. But it must come from just playing first, because that's literally how we build the muscle. That's how we stretch ourselves enough to handle higher vibrational information. So if you'd like, I'd like to offer just to play a little bit right now. So tuning into that sensation, that emotion, that feeling of it's all real. Closing our eyes, feeling into that offering of divinity, magic, imaginary circumstances, parallel worlds and different timelines, ghost angels and aliens. It's all real. Our worlds are a very different place than what most of us were taught to believe. How do you feel? Just feel the quality of it. Do your best not to classify any further. Just feel. and breathe and feel. Maybe you can put some words to the sensations or emotions. Maybe you see colors or any specific images. Perhaps you might even hear notes or tones or sense movements or smells. Stay with it. Feel, breathe, and be. Now allow yourself to imagine. What could you make with these sensations? A poem, a painting, a song, a dance, a recipe for dinner. Imagine yourself doing that thing. So just take note of this moment, put a little pin in it, as we say, and I encourage you to go back later on your own and do the thing. Maybe you got a specific idea. Maybe there were a couple of things that came to your imagination. I very much encourage us all to do that thing. And as we are doing that thing, creating whatever aspect of our artistry is making art, sometimes there's a lot of different emotions or sensations or thoughts that will come up. I feel silly. I'm not doing it right. Oh, I'm so bad at painting. That's such an ugly song. That's so not right. See, I'm not creative. And again, that's why the emotional translation is the point. Those responses to our own desire to be creative in any way, whether that response is an integrative response, yay, this is fun, this was easy, or it's a denser response, oh, that was really challenging, I'm not good, or I don't feel like I was doing it right. That ignition and that spark, that turning on of our emotions so that we can find our belief systems is the absolute point of it all. Because then we can seek for those denser beliefs. Oh, perhaps I believe I'm not worthy of my own simulacrum. Perhaps I believe that I'm not good at anything. Perhaps I believe that I do things wrong, inherently wrong. Do I believe I'm wrong? And most of us, if we're really honest to go into these places, we're going to find those beliefs. And we're usually able to see, yeah, there's a small percentage of me that believes those things. And then there's also the part of me that says, no, hey, I know I'm divinity itself. I know I'm the simulacrum. I know that not only am I worthy, but that I am worth itself. I know that I exist and I do my best to do what is right and to be in my integrity. And really, there in that capacity is no such thing as being wrong. So when we allow ourselves to do these types of actions that bring up these emotions, that allow ourselves to find our beliefs, we are then creating, again, a type of workout where the art then becomes the tool for finding those beliefs, as well as integrating the ones we prefer and moving through the ones that we don't. It's, again, this whole kind of feedback loop mechanism. And it really is then recreating ourselves. And it could be recreational because it's fun, it's play. After all, it's just art. And we also tend to take things so seriously. And again, understandably, our Earth experience is very challenging and overwhelming and scary. And there's so much of the ineffable and so much unknown. But again, playing with artistry in this way allows us to play, to not take things so seriously and begin to repattern our neurological net. Exactly the way that we talk to ourselves creates a new type of perspective with ourselves. And also, I can't say it enough. It literally builds like a muscle. We get better and better and better at being in these types of creative states where we are showing up more unconditionally loving for ourselves, and our ability to express ourselves grows. We practice and refine the skill of being ourselves and being the greater aspect of our souls. And we really begin to access our true potentials. We expand our capacity to see and feel multidimensionally, to communicate in symbols and allegory. We begin to release the insistence of that protective mechanism. We utilize both sides of our brains in a more balanced way. We are then able to bring new ways of sharing this information to a broader collective that, when information is given in a way that's perhaps overly specific, can really confuse a lot of people or makes people feel as though there's only one way to interpret it. When sharings come through any type of art, any way that we define art, we are offering ideas and vibrations in a way that allows the receiver to choose how they wish to utilize it. And then we are also stepping more so into the source aspects of ourself. We are offering energy and information in the same way through symbols and energy and a type of story that gives each individual their own will and the reminder of their own artistry. Because again, that's how the all that is, that's how creation is sending information. It's in an unconditionally open way. And we can all come together and unite through the common heart of us all if we are willing enough to allow more of our own artistry. A few quotes that I really enjoyed while I was looking at the etymology and stuff for this was painter Rene Magritte says, "Art evokes the mystery without which the world would not exist." An American monk, writer, mystic, poet, and scholar, Thomas Merton says, "Art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time." And again, as an extension of nature, it is our nature to be artists. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for taking that all in and allowing your own receptivity of your artist to shine through. So thank you very much.
It was beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Whenever I see you, I mean, even through your Facebook pictures, you're very artistic, very elegant. So I really appreciate that about you. And I have a quick question for you. With everything that you do, how has being a channel for Bella changed your life?
That's a good question. Thank you. So again, it's why it was really helpful for me to allow her energy to come through me in a way where I didn't need to necessarily overly define it. After a time, I began to really see her and feel her the way that I would any other character that I had played before. And the way that I approached things as an actor before is I really understood what they wore, what their whole background life. It was part of what was so exciting for me. So once I really began to meet her more, I had a more fleshed out idea, I guess, of the script, of the character that she was writing or that we were creating together. Again, through my translation of my brain can only kind of understand and perceive so much of her. Then the channeling kind of switched for me in terms of thinking of it as something that was a meditative thing or a very kind of spiritual endeavor. It really became kind of like an acting improv. I know who this character is. I know how she thinks. I know how she feels. I'm just going to sit in my chair and when I have sessions or do events as Bella, it's fun for me to dress up a little bit of how I see her. So I put my costume on, I kind of create the little set of my home in a way, bringing in some nature. And it's more of an acting exercise for me. But in terms of what that actually has created for me is quite remarkable. Because again, as I said before, it's a simulacrum. So it's my consciousness and her consciousness coming together and making a third entity. And it very much changes how I perceive things, how I see things. So her, from where she is in what she refers to as fourth density, she can see what she calls the structure of existence. And throughout the years, I'm able to see it in the same capacity. Oftentimes there's things where I'm like, oh, I slipped up on that. Oh, I forgot that. We're all kind of going through these moments of awakening where we realize things and then realize that we've forgotten things. But for the most part, more and more and more, I very much see things, understand, feel things from her perspective.
What type of things are you seeing?
Well, again, it's a lot of things are, in a way, the structure of existence. So being able to see what I refer to in the little talk, being able to see things from a multi-dimensional perspective. So having the awareness that I often use the analogy, again, as the actor, having the awareness, I don't care how method you are, how good you are, how into the scene you are, there's always a part of your consciousness that knows I'm acting, I'm in a show. But as humans, that's part of the deal. We forget that. We forget that we are in an experience. So that's one of the main things that I'm able to see and feel in terms of the structure of existence, is never forgetting that not only am I the actor in the scene and responding to what is happening in the scene, but I'm also able to see, to an extent, to what is relevant, the larger show that's happening. So I'm aware of how oftentimes we create and perpetuate ideas of illusion. And oftentimes it's not really a negative thing. We have illusions put in place within how we view our reality for specific reasons so that we can have continuity. Much like in a play, there's this line and then the actor leaves. There's certain things that are created as a type of illusion so the play can even happen. But I'm able to see and recognize things that we often get confused in terms of what is the illusion that's being created for the sake of story, for the sake of our learning. And I can see the structure itself. So certain things that have really helped me as well, just to be able to ground information. One of the things that we often misconstrue is the idea of reincarnation. So the idea of a linear type of reincarnation is part of the illusion that's created, because it's great. It's interesting story. It allows us to know that it's possible. It allows us to access different information. It can be very relevant for the experience to be created of a young boy remembering being his grandfather, because then there's information that comes out that's undeniable. And then as an expanding race, we have something very specific to point to that, again, gives us the emotional inspiration for understanding what is real, what's possible. But in actuality, it's just incarnation. It's all happening at the same time. And our hands are really kind of a good explanation of that. We're all extensions of the source that are all happening at the same time. And there's the idea of oversouls and being able to plug into different relevant aspects of our tree. But really, it's all at once, and we are creating the illusion of a reincarnation. So there's many different things that are like that sometimes we kind of misconstrue, or even, just different things that we hold such a weight to, things that are unexpected or things that are scary or challenging. Another aspect of the illusion versus the actual structure, a lot of times we forget this quite frequently when challenge happens perceivably to us, because it feels like that. Absolutely, you're not expecting it. We forget these amazing soul warriors that we are, this experience, especially now, is very challenging. So we forget that, oh, it's a reflection of my own consciousness, always, 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 always. And I wouldn't align myself with any type of physical reality if it wasn't there for my benefit. My higher self, my consciousness isn't going to do it. It's just not how it works. It's not how it operates, because in actuality, our consciousness is happening, our reality is happening through our consciousness. So things aren't ever happening to us. They are happening for us. And more precisely, it's happening through us. And another example of that too, that I like to kind of play with as well, is oftentimes and this kind of anchors in, to me, this gives me like a sensation. We often think, oh, my spirit is in my body. We are spirits that have bodies. My spirit is in my body. My consciousness is in my body. Again, that's part of the illusion that we're creating in this very dense reality. But the actuality is my consciousness, my body is in my consciousness. My body is in my spirit. And again, it almost makes me feel like nauseous. So I'm like, what the? Because what that really means is everything that we are seeing, feeling, experiencing is our own consciousness creating physicality. And so things like that, where throughout the years, again, following my excitement without any insistence in each and every moment, and always finding that integrative lesson, because it's always there through different actions, allowed me to vibrationally expand myself enough where I could cognitively understand these things from Bella's perspective or from the hybrid's perspective, and then through continuing action, experience the reflection that allows me to know it in my bones. So yeah, just a bit of that. It's drastically changed how I perceive things. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to go ahead and open up the call now. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute, raise your hand, and we will begin our Q&A. Because I've got a lot of questions myself. Okay, Susie?
Yeah.
Hi.
Gita, I think you're just magnificent. You're beautiful. You're so young. I've got to ask you, are these things on the side tattoos, or are they, can we buy them? I want one or two. And I could probably be your grandma or great grandma. You're so young and vibrant. And I've always just tried to do everything with art, with clothes, with music, with whatever. But your frequency is just so high. So I hope we get your information how to connect with you. But tell me about these things, and they're so cool. That was
thank you. Thank you, Susie. Your energy is lovely as well, and it's so nice to connect with you and your feline companion as well behind you. So yeah, they're stickers. I just moved one off, but yeah, they're just, and I kind of cut it because I was just having fun with where I could place them. But yeah, they're just little stickers. And then there's eyeliner and a little dot eyeliner. I was just playing into the idea of, artistry and just allowing ourselves to be a little kooky and a little weird. And because, that's what we're bringing here to Earth. And my mom gave them to me. She got it in kind of like a little discount promo thing or whatever. And she was like, hey, will you use these? And I was like, yeah, sure. Thanks. So I don't honestly know where they are from. But whatever. But I'm sure if you kind of Google, there's all sorts of kind of fun stuff. They're just stickers. Yeah.
I would have thought that you were promoting them. You're so cool at what you're doing. And it is such an example of, I mean, I've done art, I've done tie-dye, I've been a model for so long that you wouldn't believe, and I've had but I'm having to reinvent myself with new frequencies, new
sure.
vibes. I wanted to make tie-dye where they could see us from space, big bright.
Cool. Yeah.
But I just love you. I think you're just
thank you.
brilliant, and I will connect with you. Okay.
Yes, we will. I'm sure we'll drop links for everything. And I love your flower crown and your passion and your excitement of art and really we never stop changing, right? We're always evolving to different frequencies and learning how to create with that. And the language that we have for it as humans is art. Right. So we're doing it all the time in all dimensions.
Well, It's really funny. I don't remember if it's Beethoven or one of those composers. Their thing was that they were getting in the presence of God or whatever, this eternal, to create this music. And they would put a tuxedo on saying, I want to be in the best that I can be. So whatever your best is, I even try to do that for Walmart, just,
Yeah.
Just because we have very few opportunities to dress up now. But I love you. I love your energy. Brilliant. Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm a mirror for everyone, and I love you as well. And I love seeing into the mirror that is all of us on this call. So thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Gita.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you. Mary, another artist.
Hi there.
Hi,
What
Mary.
fun you are. This is unbelievable. I came out painting rocks with planets on them. I'm an ET hybrid. I've got tons of hybrid kids. What's such a relief with you is every stage I went through, I started in art history, then I got a BFA, and then I went to interior design, and I went to architecture, and I went to sustainability. I taught kids, 6 to 12-year-olds. I taught college to help others to go inside and find whatever that energy is that you so beautifully, honestly, authentically do as a young, smart, wise, conscious person that has taken me 70 years to even accept within myself. But I knew from being spoken to quietly and through my art and traveling the world and doing interiors and doing art and stuff all over the planet, that what you say are the basics. It's do unto others. We first have to accept ourselves, gives ourselves permission to be out there. And I have been criticized, and finally I'm coming out of the closet now with, that I have traveled the planet. I'm working on interiors and inside planets since I was 10 years old. And, some of these people have heard me talk a little bit about it, but I wish I had the courage. My dad was in space. I've been in secret space stuff forever. I was really too afraid to come out of the box because I was sort of ridiculed as a child. My parents, who were in government and rockets and all that stuff forever through my whole childhood, never really, my father would say, you're so emotional. I said, well, Dad, you're a rocket scientist. You're an engineer. I'm different. I'm expressing myself in my own generation as you are in yours. But anyway, thank you for the gift of joy. And I've told my students, my clients for 50, 60 years to play. Don't take yourself so seriously. Allow yourself to fail. We don't know who. I finally feel like I know who I am more now at age 70, than I ever have. And everything I've done, and I just went back and started doing art again. And I did a couple kids' books. It's the passion and finding that authentic vibe of whatever all those multidimensional, all those multisensories are there. We have we have so much support all around us.
Yeah.
Don't we? I mean,
yeah, we really do.
Thank you for being such an inspiration. So what is on your bucket list? Just do more of the same, because you're inspiring all of us. And I've been a wiggly artist my whole life in so many ways. And it's different coming in from a different vantage point. So it's really nice for me in my research and doing this new world for the last couple of years to hear somebody talk about their artistry, which I never really have, because it's all about using all our individual gifts and putting it into that soup song, all those dimensions that we have to participate and give it in whatever way we can to this. I just did this morning. I was playing with art.
Wow.
And I just thought, I'm going to just bring out all my everything that I gave to students and to clients and everything, but it's time. And you just really reignited me.
Oh, good.
Rebirthed that even more flame in me to just really get it out there and don't hold back. So thank you. And I think we all agree, or just thank you, Sheila, for bringing her on, and thank you. So what else would you recommend to all of us and to anybody? Just keep going for it. Be yourself, be true to yourself.
Absolutely.
Tell the truth. Tell your own truth, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you again so much for your passion and your presence and your artistry. And really, when I was kind of looking through all of the faces on here and feeling the energies of everyone in the group, I was like, oh, I feel very young. I'm like, what am I going to say that's like teaching these people anything? Like, oh my. But that's what it's all about, is being that mirror for each other, being that reflection for each other. And I feel that there are so many like yourself that experienced things very, very different out of the scope of things, certainly things that were 20, 30 years ago. And you all have really laid a foundation for those like myself to be able to come and be like, we're here, like, let's make a hybrid musical and like put it on Broadway, kids, like.
Oh, I want to do it. I want to do a TEDx talk. Let's do one.
Yeah,
it is time. Okay. No, I mean it. My cousin keeps saying that. She said, Mary, it's time for you to just blast it out there. So let's do it.
Sure. I'd love to. But, and because for me, it's, my connections to the hybrids have always felt so secure. Like you were saying, there's so much support. There's so much around us. And they've always led me back to keep it simple. Mm-hmm. Keep it the core message, be really aware not to get all lost out in space, literally. Mm-hmm. How can you continue to boil it through in ways? So my experiences, and I really haven't talked about this much at all in terms of publicly, but you mentioned I've had a lot of experiences in many different realms, meeting many different beings, being able to, again, like what Sheila asked me, understand concepts that come through me because of my own experiences. So I remember different timelines. Mm-hmm. I remember different versions of myself. And when you're aiming to share these kind of concepts with people, it sounds really crazy. Right. And in a way where you're going to lose a lot of people, mm-hmm. or in a way where even those of us that are kind of used to these topics, especially when we start talking about how our memories really work and what present timeline really, it's very quantum. And our brains, again, that defensive protective mechanism can kind of come around and try to make sense of it all. So what I've started working on is telling my story and different beings that I've met in many, many different realms and my connections with Bella and different aspects of my oversoul, but writing it like a fiction novel. And actually marketing it and putting it out like a fiction story, and not saying like this is my actual experience, because I think that's what trips people up. But if more people can ingest as a story, again, like I said before, where I'm not telling you how you need to feel about this, I'm just offering you a good story, then that's how we begin to plant the seeds of our consciousness expanding in a way, again, that unites all of us. Because that's how we learn is through story. So that's one of the things that I've been working on and playing with and creating is writing a bit more.
Right. Well, look at, Harry Potter. And I walked with a friend of mine whose husband who created the Muppets. And I said, what was it like, back in the olden days, just like what we're talking about with ETs and hybrids too. I talk about the grays on the craft at age 5 and people look at me like I'm insane. Yeah. But she said, we were talking about getting kids in Harlem to meet monsters. And she said, we got so much crap for that we just kept going and going. Yeah. Jim was himself was her husband at the time. So every generation has that, but I think that's a really smart idea. And then your next one, you can just maybe go for it. But I think people want to know the truth, and kids want to know the truth. Sure. Barbara Lamb and I did the book E.T. Friends in Space. We've gotten hundreds of calls from people saying, please keep telling the truth. We love seeing your
Mm.
drawings because that ignites something and they remember when they see a drawing in a kid's book.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so many of us being able to take whatever angles we want with it is what's so beautiful. And who knows, it might shift for me, but I'm really honestly like turned on by knowing what's true for me and not needing to impose or change anyone's mind because that's not actually possible. I'm going to shift to a vibration of myself where I then align with a different version of reality that's always been in existence.
Right. And that's what we do. And then, and
Yeah.
it's just, I have never tried to do any, we don't, we just,
Yeah.
oh, that was cool. Oh, I've been doing that for 20 years, 50 years. I mean, it's being that authentic vibration because we can't be anything else. If it's not the truth, it never works. And we don't, I mean, why fake it when we can tell these stories to inspire people? Because we're here to inspire kids of all ages.
Absolutely.
Really be our authentic selves, because that's where we shine. So
absolutely.
Anyway, thank you. I didn't
thank you, Mary. Oh, you're lovely. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, wish I'd love to.
Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, does anyone else have a question? Okay, Johnny.
Okay, I have a question here on, I see a lot of us here are creative. I have a lot of creative projects I started. I got a graphic novel. I did an oracle card deck. I never end up finishing or publishing them because I feel this 3D block that art isn't good enough. You know, you got to do a desk job. You have to do marketing. How much money do I have to invest in this? And is it going to profit, or do I have to go back to 3D? But then if I do that, I end up getting sick or injured anyways, and all my money goes into healing.
Sorry.
So how do you break that blockage?
One of these in the freezer, the little freezer on top of the fridge, just get it out and let it thaw.
I mean, honestly, that was kind of perfect because we do have many different belief systems that get compounded. We could go into it however deep you like in this moment, Johnny, but this is a bit more of what I do when people have sessions with me. Is it's very unique in terms of how you begin to peel apart and to take your beliefs out of the freezer and look at them and let them thaw out, right? And it's the honest investigative work of doing that. So I mean, we can go into it as much as you like now, but really it's kind of being able to ask questions of yourself is how you allow that belief to thaw out. You have to be willing enough to dive into it and go, okay, this must be coming from a belief. Let's take it out of the freezer. Let's allow it to thaw out. And there's also, again, this is kind of like what Sheila and I were talking about earlier. We're never actually blocked, not in actuality. Not really. It's just not possible. But we can definitely create the experience of that. And a lot of times we will create the experience of something that we don't prefer, such as being blocked, just so we can experience what we are not. We see it, we create our reality so specifically that we'll create something so we have the opportunity to go, oh, I'm not that. Right? So even that sometimes can help as I feel you in this out. Oh, okay. Even sometimes just receiving a little bit of this is an aspect of the illusion and this is the actuality. Even sometimes those little shifts in our consciousness are enough to have us go, oh, that's the piece of chicken in the freezer, right? Oh, I see it. That's something that I'm creating. So then you begin to ask yourself the questions like, what am I learning from doing this? What am I learning about myself? Am I learning I'm resourced? Am I learning I believe I'm not resourced? Am I experiencing things where I keep going through the same cycle? You can ask yourself questions like, what am I gaining from this? Because we also must be getting something positive out of the illusion of the block that we're creating, or else we wouldn't be doing it. Again, that's another kind of paradox, kind of trippy illusion that we create for ourselves. We are always going to follow what we feel is of service to us. Always. But sometimes we create the illusion of doing something that is of a disservice to us, but we can dig a little bit deeper and find, okay, no, what am I gaining from this? Or is it, and it could just be something as simple as, oh, I'm staying comfortable, right? I'm staying in my comfort zone. So in terms of the idea of the tarot cards, right, is one of the things, and the graphic novels, right?
Yeah,
Those
I got a bunch of projects, so yeah, it's
and
one of many.
And are any of those complete? Are any of those at the state?
The cards are almost complete. I'm like writing out the meaning to each card. I kind of like channeled like Egyptian like deities, and they kind of like showed it. And
so you're still in process with that. Okay, perfect, awesome. So allow yourself the creative process, and then when you're done, do the next thing that you can think to do, whether that's reaching out to a publisher, whether that's self-publishing. That's super easy these days, is to self-publish something. Just take the next idea that you're able to take action on. And this is what the hybrids call the formula. So this always is going to loop back to this. So from the hybrid perspective, this is all we need to navigate our reality. This is it. The idea of following our joy, our excitement, our passion, our desires, the next moment of inspiration in each and every moment, moment. And sometimes that's submitting something to a publisher. Sometimes that's knowing that you want to take a walk and go outside, and really getting very in the moment with the next available action that we have, and choosing the thing that feels the best. And sometimes we will trick ourselves. Sometimes I see you going, well, that's the whole point. Sometimes we don't know if it's our excitement, if it's our comfortability, if it's our anxiety. Sometimes we don't know. And again, that's the whole beauty of the process, because it doesn't matter. As long as we commit to and do the thing in each and every moment that we really feel is that much better than the other thing, everything that we need is going to reveal itself from us taking that action. Here's the kicker: in a state that has absolutely no insistence or assumption that something is going to happen as a result of taking whatever action. Because we're just following the translation of our joy. It's like our higher self is up on a mountain, and we are like the actor that's forgotten it's in the show, right? It's like, oh, I forgot I'm an actor. I'm just so deep in this experience. I can't see where I'm going. I have all these blocks. I'm in these cycles. I'm going through the thicket. And the higher self is on book. The higher self knows it's the actor in the show and is sending us our translation to get us moving. So it's all about just staying in the attunement as much as we can with whatever feels the most exciting in each and every moment, and not being in any insistence, because part of the deal that we're creating here is always being surprised in a way, and always falling into that trust of our higher selves. And again, like I was saying earlier, always doing our absolute best to have an integrative response to whatever we see, because you are creating that thicket. That is your consciousness reflecting back to you. You are creating the path that you're on, coming back to you. You are creating the next experience for you to be able to find whatever that belief is. So we create experiences that arise emotional responses. So we then have the ability to go, what must I be believing in this instance to be feeling this way? Because that's another thing that's a structure of existence where emotions, specific feelings, don't exist on their own. They're energy in motion, but it's only when it's translated through our belief systems that we interpret that energy and motion as a specific feeling. So it's literally creating the filtration system. So a good example is anxiety and excitement are the same energy getting filtered through different beliefs. And so as long as we commit to following whatever we think it feels the best, and sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we're like, yeah, I have an idea to submit something to a publisher today, but also I just want to sit on the couch.
That's actually me lately. I've been just like chilling, meditating 3 to 4 hours a day. I became an intuitive, it's called, like life coach as well, and an energy healer. So there's lots of things coming at me, but I'm so bombarded by it that
it doesn't
I try
matter.
to do art, and I just kind of, like the past 2 weeks, I've just been in vegetative state, saying whatever comes more important, I will work on, but it's not really coming right now. So I'm just like meditating all day until it comes.
And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes this is where the personal reflection and personal quest comes in, and your ability to be really honest with yourself. That, again, in terms of us going deeper, I would recommend doing a private session. I'm doing my best to kind of show you the container that you can navigate through as much as you want. So sometimes, again, because we're really good at tricking ourselves, it's what we do. Sometimes we can be tricking ourselves to stay on the couch or be in a meditative state, or to go, I'm going to slightly push myself. I know I want to go to the gym today, and I know going to the gym, I'm going to feel a little bit better. It's really kind of like a very simple explanation. But once you go to the gym and you do it, you're like, oh, okay, I do feel better. That was like my true excitement. But that only comes with practice. And the only way that we can know why we might be making certain choices is to ask ourselves those kind of challenging questions in terms of revealing our belief systems. And I'm not saying to you that either one is the more exciting or better, more aligned option. That's only for you to know. And again, kind of going back to what I was saying in the talk, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but it's how you're doing it. So as long as you're really clear and authentic with knowing why you are doing something, that's all that matters. And the more that you continue to operate from that space, being as conscious as you can with your actions, the more then you're going to align with experiences like this, or anything else, another person, and whatever it is, that's endless as to how you will align with the next experience to reveal more of your beliefs to yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. You're very welcome. Thank you, Johnny.
So before we go to any further questions, Gita, if people would like to reach you, how can they do so?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Sheila. So my website is gitarose.com, GITAROSE.com. And that you can book sessions directly there. And then also I'm on Instagram and Facebook. On Instagram, my handle is Gita Rose, like Bond, James Bond. And I usually am pretty good at responding to messages. And then also my direct email is also rosegitarose@gmail.com. I'll put that in for you guys, just because that feels relevant for this group of masters. Okay, that's it. Cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, Lynn, you've had your hand up for a moment. Let's go ahead and ask your question.
Hi. So for me, I was an actress, as a matter of fact. I pretty much lived half in the alien world and half in my world. I grew up literally in two worlds. So I've always been in a half daydream state just to navigate the two. And then I finally went after acting at 39 and I lost 60 pounds. I did all this stuff. But what it did for me was open me up creatively. Yeah. And then what happened is as you know, it's a tough industry and you've never done enough and you got to do this, you got to do that. And I needed to get on with life. So anyways, what I found is that my creativity, after being triggered for that, helped me in the next profession of becoming a massage therapist.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So then I became a massage therapist, being an actress. So they're always like, well, do it your way, or how you can do that better. So I turned around, I took massage and said, well, why am I doing it like this? And literally just threw creativity at it. And then started working with the brain. And the next thing you know, I've actually developed a specialized massage technique that is now going to go national. That was one of my, but on the other hand too, I've been, in the last 2 years, the shutdown, I've been writing my life story because it's just so crazy. And I've debated on whether to make it like a fantasy novel because I'm this person in two different worlds. Like it can't translate into a book in a sense, or a memoir, because it's so I've played around with that, so I know what you're saying. But I found too that just by opening up my creativity, like when COVID hit, I had to redo my massage office. And then I got creative, and actually I can show you. Because then what I did is I took the office and turned it into a garden. So it's a whole garden.
Oh, cool.
I let it sit in between clips. So it's like a whole garden. So I turned it into a garden.
Beautiful.
But yeah, but you know, what's funny is I had a problem at one point where I was trying to write my book, trying to get my massage technique. I've trained it. Now I have to put it into writing. Now I have to create a manual in order to teach it. And then I was off on telling my life story and doing a diary at the same time. And so I found myself bouncing all over the place. And then finally said, well, I have to pick a lane to put my energy in it and then go back. So I pick at it, but then I go back. But it's funny because even when I'm massaging, sometimes I'll let my mind go. And I have this crazy story of being like a white Medea, but I go on adventures with Medea. And the two of us do all this crazy stuff. And so then my brain will go in that. I'll be laughing in the middle while I'm doing a massage because my brain is like all over the place. So then I'm like writing down like scripts and stuff too. But it's funny, do you ever find that you have so many things bouncing around that you need to kind of like, okay, let me get one down and then go to the other?
Yes and no. First off, just thank you for being you and for sharing. And I love what you were saying, that when you allowed yourself to follow the joy and explore the acting, it then opened you up to all of the different ways that you can be creative. And really kind of, what we're talking about all together here is utilizing creativity and artistry to understand more of our true nature and divinity. So I love how you just echoed and reflected that as yourself. And so to answer what you're saying, yes and no. And I think a lot of the times, perhaps that's something that comes from society's conditioning, comes from us needing to be a doer society, where we often think things need to be done in a certain way. We often almost kind of assume that we have to focus on things in order to get things done. And I don't myself know how necessarily true that is. I have many different projects going at the same time. I find myself waxing and waning in terms of having excitement about editing videos, or then I'm writing and I haven't shared a YouTube video in months, and then I can kind of go on these different trips where I almost kind of feel bad or guilty or judgmental, or and then there's other times where I'm like hyper focused. I'm like a machine. And I'm still honestly finding the balance with that. And I think that's constantly part of being a very intuitive, very empathic, high vibrational being, that we're all kind of walking of learning how to be very fluid and then also very decisive and very clear, right? We're paradoxes in motion. And I think it takes practice to be able to do that. But I think if anything, I think we could kind of edge towards the other side and allow ourselves to be a little weirder and do multiple things at the same time, release a lot of those kind of beliefs and judgments that really might not be true. And I think when we, again, like I was saying with Johnny, those are the invitations to find all of our belief systems, right? Because we're nature. We can cycle like nature. We shift and we breathe and we move and we ebb and we flow. We are no different than the planet itself. And we allow the planet to do all these things at once, to be very multi-creative and have all these seasons. And we don't allow that of ourselves. And I think when we allow that type of creational energy to move through us, we'll experience time in different ways. We can get a lot done in different ways. I think by allowing ourselves to be what we might conceive of being less productive, we'll be more efficient.
Oh, good point. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks.
Okay, does anyone else have a question? Okay, one of the things that I would like to ask, and then I'll see if anyone has another question before we close. I wanted to check with you, and I know that, my collective has been telling me that this year that's coming up is going to be a year of rebalancing, that we're going to have more of a conscious expansion, which can be painful at times because we have the light shed onto the dark and we have to move through that. We have to release, we have to let go. I'm wondering if you're getting any information about the coming year.
Yeah, I actually really love the term of a rebalancing. In terms of the coming year, really, and the movement forward, what I've really been getting, and kind of what a lot of people within the hybrid lineage are talking about, is the probability of more open contact with small groups and individuals. And that deeply resonates within me, because it kind of goes back to what Mary and I were talking about earlier, of this structure, this container, the family that's there, the possibility that's there, where, yes, there may be many things that come to light. There may be very challenging things that happen that we see that are part of the greater collective rebalancing, what you're saying in terms of the light being shed on the darkness. Not saying that won't happen, but what I've been getting is the probability of a lot of very beautiful contact with these beings in ways where we can rebalance in that way and be true ambassadors of stepping into this new era of contact on Earth. And again, it bringing up many different things within the self, still going very deep within the, in order to create that contact, there needs to be the self contact. But that's what I've been getting, is there's a more visceral, tangible, perhaps more physical, but more opportunity for contact for us to essentially see more of ourselves in the mirror. And there's many different ways that could come about. But that's been one of the main things that I'm doing. And for me personally, what that means is connecting with nature, connecting with the elementals and with plants and trees, and building that very deep contact with those realms. And again, it almost feels like a bed, like I can rest in, something that I can support myself, that then allows me to kind of be ushered through all these other kind of different contact experiences, that then is going to drastically change our vibration, that gives us the ability to navigate through challenge in completely different ways. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I see that Hildegard has joined us. Honey, do you have a question before we move any further?
No, it's great. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm late. Just came in. So I just got the tail end of your presentation, Gita. Nice to meet you.
Oh, it's nice to meet you.
Hang on. I saw a camera isn't even on yet.
Oh, it's all right. Your voice has many pictures.
Beautiful.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, and again, thank you
hello.
for organizing.
There you are.
Right? I find it very interesting what you were just saying, because my contact with the Andromedans goes back almost 30 years now this year. And what I have been learning over the years is, in particular over the last 6 months, it's all about reclaiming that universal self and anchoring that awareness into this physicality and then expressing it and being our authentic self, that which we were actually coming into this incarnation for. And I totally love the synchronicity of just coming into the room and you were speaking to that. You know, it's really amazing. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Absolutely.
To chat more and get to know you better. It's awesome.
Yes. Thank you for being you. Hello. Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Hildegard.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have one last question?
I have a question on how we can, where do we find repeats of this? I mean, if we missed something or missed half of it, how can we find where we can watch the reruns?
Everything is found on thewishalliance.org, and you can go to that site and go to the events page. And when you go to events, there'll be a drop-down menu, and it will say past speakers. And when you click on that, it will list all of our past speakers, and you can access anything that we have shown over the last year, including this year.
So it's not on the Facebook, it's on Wish Alliance.
It's on the wishalliance.org. Yes.
.org. Okay.
Yes. You can. Yes. And you can also go to New Realities, Alan's show, and you can go to PortalToAscension, their YouTube channels, and you'll be able to find the majority of all of our stuff.
Which I just looked, and that Portal to Ascension thing is in 2 days. I gotta get in there. I forgot. I mean, I'm not keeping up. I'll be there.
Well, be sure to use the code PTA25 to get a 25% discount.
Will do. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so Gita, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to leave with us?
Honestly, it's to already continue what we already know, to just know what we know, and to be bold and brave enough to continue to explore what is uncertain, and to be absolutely certain with who we are while we are exploring very uncertain times. And that's why I'm honestly so honored and able to keep being a representative for the hybrids, because they break it down so simply that the idea of the formula and what everyone is saying in different ways in terms of being ourselves, be our authentic selves, create, and just do and bring forth the light that we are. And our race has known this idea, follow your heart, follow your bliss. We've known this for quite some time, but I so firmly know, and I feel our hearts mirroring each other, that that is the absolute utmost truth. And we can be certain of that as we continue to navigate through very uncertain times.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. And one last time, if people would like to reach out to continue a conversation, to set up a session with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, thank you so much. So my website is gitarose.com, and I am on Instagram as Rose Gita Rose, ROSEGITAROSE. And my email is also the same, rosegitarose@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. May you have a blessed year.
Thank you.
Blessed year to everyone out there. So until we are back together again. Actually, next week we'll be having Neil speak to us. I think he's going to be talking about our past and ancient civilizations. So that'll be exciting. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Many, many blessings and namaste.
Thank you. Thank
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
so
night,
much,
everyone.
Sheila. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
So much.
Nice to see you all. Bye, Susan.